What's up, Central Illinois business owners? We know that insurance and employee benefits are one of the most expensive, confusing, and frustrating hurdles that you face in your business today. Garrett and I work with Central Illinois businesses to create insurance and risk management programs and employee benefit solutions that reduce risk, enhance your business, and maximize your profitability. Head to ciblinsurance.com to learn more about insurance solutions that are specifically designed for your Central Illinois businesses and to watch our educational videos about work comp, employee health insurance, commercial insurance, and other insurance products to help your business go to the next level. Go to ciblinsurance.com. We'll see you there.
It's time for CIBL Biz Tips, bringing you actionable strategies to grow and improve your business. Prepare to become civilized.
Welcome to CIBL Biz Tips, where we bring you concepts and strategies to grow your Central Illinois business. Today, I am going solo on the Biz Tips session. We're going to talk a little bit about everybody's favorite topic. We're going to talk about insurance. That's right. I know everybody loves learning about insurance, and this is probably going to be our most downloaded episode, I'm sure. But I do want to answer some questions that we get on a very frequent basis from business owners. We know that it's a concern, probably one of the more frustrating topics that you deal with in your business, maybe one of the more expensive topics or items in your business. So what I'd like to do today is help you identify exactly how your premium is calculated. How is your insurance rated, and why do you pay what you pay for insurance? And this might help you as maybe there's some business owners out there looking at buying another business or starting another business or expanding, or you just want to know more about how your insurance is rated. I'm going to talk about how your premium is calculated and what drives your cost. So let's talk a little bit about that. I'm going to talk about 3 items in your insurance program, the 3 or 4 most common coverages that business owners have. I'm going to talk about general liability, property, work comp, and I may even throw in your commercial auto insurance there. Just give you some basics of how it's rated and what you can maybe do to reduce your cost on those items. So I'll start with general liability. This is one that almost every business is going to have. If you don't have it, I would highly recommend getting it. I know there's some small business owners out there that maybe don't have insurance yet or looking into getting it. General liability is usually your starting point. And it is exactly what it says it is. It's a general liability policy. It covers property damage and bodily injury to third parties. So if someone's injured because of your product or services, if somebody is has their property damaged because of your services, general liability is the basic place to start for that coverage. So the way that it's rated is highly rated based off of your industry or your occupation. So each carrier has what's called class codes. So they break your occupation or your business into a code, and that code has a different rating for each type of occupation. So there's a different code, different rating for each type of business. If you have a high risk exposure business, let's say you manufacture fireworks. That is a high risk code. Okay. So your rate is going to be higher for a fireworks manufacturer than if you were a seamstress. Let's say if you were sewing stuff together, your risk is much lower than a fireworks manufacturer. So those are 2, I'm just using those for example purposes, but you can kind of estimate if your business is a high risk business. A lot of contractors, let's say if you are a roofer or you're doing tree trimming, those are typically higher risk occupations versus maybe an office job or a small retailer that sells t-shirts. Your risk dictates your cost. So if you're a higher risk, you're probably going to have more expense than a lower risk business. So keep that in mind. Now, the way they rate that, there's a lot of ways that they rate that exposure, I guess you could say. So it's usually either sales or payroll. So there's certain codes or certain occupations where your premium is going to be based off of your total sales numbers or your payroll. Typically, if you are like a contractor, payroll is how they will rate your total liability premium. So if you have high payroll, you have a couple, 50, 60 employees, your rate for liability is going to be higher than a one-man contractor. So that's how they rate. They multiply. There's a calculation. I won't get too far into the weeds, but basically they multiply your payroll times this rate, and that's how they come up with the total liability premium. Now, if you are a retailer, let's say, or another type of business, they may use sales instead of payroll. So sales is one that they use to calculate your premium a lot as well. So if you have more sales, let's say you are a fireworks manufacturer, for example, the more sales you have, that means the more product you have sold to your clients. So there's more risk out there. So your sales are going to are going to dictate your total liability cost. So there's sales, there's payroll. You may even see total area or total square footage be the rating factor for your liability. So an example for that would be, let's say like a wedding venue or an event center. If you have a 4,000 square foot event center, your rating may be based off of 4,000 square feet and not necessarily sales or payroll. There could be a units measurement factor in there. So like if you own an apartment with 4 rental units, it may be based off of a 4 rental unit risk factor or a rating factor. So there's different ways that they calculate different occupations liability. So keep that in mind. Main drivers are your industry you work in, either sales, payroll, or other rating factor. Another thing that comes into play is your experience. So keep in mind, or claims history. So if you have claims in your past, you're probably going to pay more than someone who doesn't have claims. If you're a brand new business who has no experience versus someone who's been in business for 20 years, you're probably going to pay more with less experience. So keep that in mind as well. Each insurance company can add what they call credits to your commercial insurance policies. If they feel like you are a lower risk business than maybe a similar business down the street, they can add credits to reduce your premium because they feel like you are a safer, less risky business. They may add credits to get your business. So that's something that your experience, your claims, if you're doing other items to reduce your risk, you can potentially qualify for credits from an insurance company. So keep that in mind too. I want to move on to property insurance. This one's kind of self-explanatory. Your property is based off of how much property you have. So if you are renting a space, let's say you just rent and you have $50,000 of contents coverage inside that building that you rent, you're just paying, you're only going to insure your stuff in most cases. So your expense is going to be less than somebody that owns the building and has stuff inside the building. So if your premium is going to be dictated by the total amount of property you have. As far as property goes, location is a big one to keep in mind. So if you are located in a small rural town, like I'm going to use Shelbyville because that's where I'm at, versus maybe Champaign, Illinois, or even Springfield, there is something called your protection class. So in Shelbyville, and to explain protection class it rates your fire district or your fire department on how well they can respond or how quickly they can respond to a fire. So if you have a better rated fire department in your area, you are going to have reduced insurance premiums compared to someone who has a lower rated fire department, if that makes sense, because they're able to respond to fires quicker. There's going to be less damage to your property. So your premiums are going to be less than someone who may live in the country, for example. So the location of your business will also dictate the premium. The age of your building. If you have a building on Main Street that was built in 1870, it's probably going to be more expensive to insure that building than a small new pole barn type structure built in 2020. Just so you know. Also, updates are a big thing for property. So if you've recently replaced the roof, the heating and air, electrical, plumbing, all those updates help in your total rating for your insurance premium. Another thing to keep an eye on is if you're insuring your building at replacement cost or actual cash value. So those are 2 rating factors and different coverages altogether. So this could be an entire podcast episode in and of itself. I'm not going to get too far into the weeds right now, but replacement cost is exactly what it is. It replaces your building with like, kind, and quality of material and labor. ACV is actual cash value, so it takes into account depreciation at claim time. So it pays you the depreciated amount for labor and material. So you get less settlement at claim time, so it's usually reduced premium for actual cash value coverage versus replacement cost. So again, I'm not going to get too far in the weeds. We could review that in another episode down the line. Work comp, we've talked about this before with Bob Woodard. He was on the show and did we called it Work Comp 101, kind of gave a crash course in workers' compensation, how you can control your cost, how it's rated, what insurance companies look for to give you a better rate. Work comp, similar to general liability. Work comp is rated based off of your industry or your class code, and it's also rated based off of your payroll. It's always payroll. You're never going to rate work comp based off of your sales. It's always a payroll-based coverage. So the more payroll you have, the more work comp costs you're going to have. Again, if you have a higher risk occupation, if you are a roofer, your rate's going to be higher than for someone who is, let's say, a IT business that works out of an office. It's all based off of risk. So work comp's pretty straightforward. It's payroll and occupation. You also have some other factors in work comp. We talked about with Bob Woodard in that Biz Tips series, your mod, your experience modification factor, which dictates how many claims or what your experience has been compared to other businesses in your industry sector. So if you've had worse claims than others in your business sector, you're going to pay more based off of your work comp mod. If you've had better experience, you're going to pay less. You're actually going to get a credit added to your policy because you've had better experience than those in your industry. I won't go too deep on that either. That could be another episode topic. Last item I'll talk about is auto, your business auto. And this is rated, all going to be similar to your personal auto. It's based off of the type of vehicles you have, the value of those vehicles, the drivers that you list on your commercial auto policy. Do they have good driving history? Do you have claims history? That's all going to impact your auto, your commercial auto. Another thing that may impact you that you don't necessarily have to answer on a personal auto application is, what's your radius? Are you staying within a 25 to 50 mile radius of your home location or your headquarters, or are you going outside the state, all across the nation? Are you servicing people in California, New York? Are your people driving there? So your radius of operation can also come into play with your business auto rating. So anyway, I've given you a lot of information on how your insurance is rated here. If you want to learn more, you can head to our website to learn more about insurance costs for Central Illinois businesses. It is ciblinsurance.com, and you can learn more, check out more episodes about how insurance works for Central Illinois business owners there. Until next time, y'all been civilized. Take care.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Central Illinois Business Leaders Podcast. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/CIBL podcast. You can also follow us on LinkedIn. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. It's the civilized thing to do.